So I just got back to my hotel. I'm in Japan right now, so it's like a shoebox. Um, and I've been here for 4 days now, so I'll be heading back tomorrow with my girlfriend and her family. Uh, and I'm making this video to talk about something that I think a lot of artists like myself, think about, which is where we get inspiration. Um, and it's something that I've given some thought, especially here in Japan, where I think so many artists come to get inspired. So many people in general, and whether it's Japan or Europe or America or Asia or Africa or wherever you go, Australia, I don't know, Antarctica, people, I don't think you can go there willy nilly, but I think inspiration, travel oftentimes brings a lot of inspiration because you're exposed to stimuli that you are not exposed to in your home country. You have a way of life that's so comfortable that since it's not being challenged, it's hard to reflect on, right? Because it just works. You don't give it a second chance. I'm sorry, you don't give it a second thought when you close the door behind you when you go home, right? You don't think like, how'd that work? How'd that happen? How does the lock work? Maybe you think of it once or twice, but you don't. Oftentimes, many things in your daily life you don't give a second thought to. Whereas when you travel abroad, I think you are thinking everything through, whether it's taking the train or what side of the road to use, or can you walk on the road? Can you jaywalk? By the way, you can jaywalk in Japan. Like as a tangent, so many of those like TikTok hacks. I've been here like multiple times now. So many of those like TikTok tips, like don't walk and eat, don't drink and eat, and walk, and don't jaywalk and follow the rules, and you have to. There's like a context to it. I think a lot of Japanese people jaywalk. In fact, I saw some people jaywalking like the main road. That's like 5 lanes, 6 lanes. Okay, don't they jaywalk? But they're just different about it. I think like they might not jaywalk the pedestrian lane, crossing lane where it's like a red light, but they might jaywalk further down the road where so like at the crosswalk there's a red light, but if you go further down the road and there's no cars, they just cross. I mean, it's common sense. um and I don't even know if that's, I don't know how, if they consider that jaywalking or what. Anyway, so let's just go back. I mean, just I think a lot of people consider travel as something that's really quite inspiring, uh for the reasons that I outlined previously. um and I think that's normal, and me, I was expecting also to some degree to be inspired. I remember the first time I came to Japan, of course, as like a self-confessed weeb. It's like, oh my god, anime, like, let's go, like, let's hunt for some, like, I don't know what I was like hunting back when I first went, like kankore, kantai collection, merchandise. I was hunting for uh K-On! Merchandise. I was hunting for, I there's probably it probably doesn't exist, but back then I was really into like Shirobako, which is an anime about like making an anime, which is, I thought it was great. Uh, or like I don't know, Beck, Mongolian Job Squad. I don't know, Samurai Champloo, Karakan Jabi CD. I don't know. But and I remember I went and I didn't get all of that, but I was, like that. That was like when I started making lo-fi beats, and okay, so yeah, inspired. And I started doing math rock and stuff, right? So like very inspiring. And then I went a second time, yeah, like EDM. Well, not really EDM, but yeah, it did take me back. And so the third time's charm, and this time I'm alone. I'm with my girlfriend and her family, but they're in a separate, they're on their own. I'm just tagging along, so I'm by myself, and I flew in and everything by myself. So I figured like this is really gonna be, like my first, or not my first, but one of my first trips, international trips. I'm flying alone, separate, the whole trip. Okay, let's go. And so I figured, right, like, you would think, okay, I'm gonna experience so much new stuff, and I didn't, actually. At least I did get inspired, and I'll get to that later. But I think it's not so much that I got used to it, right? Like, it's not so much that the wanderlust is gone. It's not so much that I'm not surprised. I think there's a lot of stuff, like new stuff that I saw third time around here. And I definitely, like, I went to Disneyland for the first time. No, I'm in Japan. I went once before when I was younger to Hong Kong, but first time now as an adult. I actually was able to ride the rides, we went on like a horrible day where it's like 3 hour lines for everything, but it was great. I still enjoyed it. It hurt my feet, but it's okay. And I got to visit I got to visit my friend who works here and all these things. But I got to like really experience like being like a tourist, like a tourist. Not like a dumb, not like a dumb tourist who like completely like offends everyone. Um, and not like someone that could pass for a local. And of course, I think I will never pass for a local, but you get what I mean. Like yeah, I'm comfortable. Okay, so like okay, here comes it's cherry blossom season. I see the cherry blossoms. They're there. I'm on the train. Oh, it's so nice, so warm. And I guess it's kind of nothing. It's not nothing burger, but like it's gonna hit, and I'm not nothing's coming to me musically. And then one day, like all the trains are delayed, and I'm looking at I'm looking at the route on the train. I'm looking at the screen, just absent-mindedly because I'm just I commute with no earphones. I commute with no music. I feel like music is kind of like it turns my music brain on and I get overstimulated. So I commute with no music. So I'm just staring at the screen with my thoughts, and I see like reason for delay, person on tracks, and that's the reason for delay for like a bunch of trains. And I remember reading that like person on train sometimes, or not sometimes, most of the time, is like a very polite way of saying someone on the tracks. So that really like whoa, you know, holy crap. It's very tragic, very 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 tragic. I really hope that it on the off chance that it's not, that it doesn't mean what I think it means. That's great, but given like everything I've read online, that is that is most likely what it means. And so, that really hit me, really really hard. I've lost people, and so, okay, whoever that person is, I'm praying for you. And I there's no judgment. You can tell that this was a rush hour work day. You can tell that they were very much annoyed that the train was delayed 30 minutes or like an hour. At 2 minutes you can get a certificate for the train being late. So 30 minutes to an hour, that's everyone's schedule's out the window. I don't blame them. I don't judge them. It's not especially not when it happens so frequently. You know, you get desensitized to that kind of thing if it happens so frequently. So there's no judgment from me. In fact, it made me realize some things about like how society works and how like our way of lives are. Like so much of it is just being used to things that would shock other people, and in this case, I am other people, and I'm shocked. So, oh my god, was my reaction. And I started to think about it a lot more, and I think so. That's where my inspiration started to, So I started to think about like, not necessarily like taking it, making a song out of it, but just that experience of like being shocked and yeah, it's tough. It's a tough world. And so just to take this story, I mean, I've been spinning this yarn for a while now. That singular experience, I feel like just like was the inspiration, like the spark I needed to draw this larger conclusion about like life, my way of life, the way that and about living. Enough to where I started to build like a song idea in my head from that. And it's not just like talking about like someone who on a train. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. But it was the catalyst for like this grander realization about mortality and life and like fulfillment and all these other ideas. And how these things are universal, across cultures. The problems, there are many universal problems, and no one is immune. And if personally, I think, if you look at other countries and you look down on them for having these problems, you probably don't realize that your society is probably also facing it too. You may be facing it too, and you just don't realize it. And so it's, I don't want to be blind anymore. So like it's sort of like trying to like unblind myself. Like, yes, yeah, problems everywhere, everywhere you go. There's a word called sonder, and it's like it was coined by this guy like a few years back, basically meaning that it's the realization that everyone around you is living a life that is just as like vivid and real as yours. Obviously, because if they're people, and just like being really acutely aware of that. And for me, I mean, like I had been feeling this sonder for quite a while now, and then nothing really hit it. I mean, like it hit a lot harder in that moment where I became acutely aware of like my life, these people's lives around me on the train, other people, just like imagining how everything's working, like who is cleaning that up, and someone sits there at the front on that train every day, knowing that it could happen, and having just every time that it does happen, you are witness to it. Like, wow, it's quite vivid. So, you know, um, I think artistic. So like, let's put it back to the point of artistic inspiration. Like, for me, you know, I don't really find that much inspiration, or I don't really find, yeah, in that I don't really find that much inspiration in like isolated experiences. I think that's my style. I don't really like to make art only about one very specific thing, unless that very specific thing draws out like a larger universal realization or truth. And that's sort of the approach I have to my art. Um, so I like to maybe like describe like a specific scenario or conversation or what, but in a way where it reveals a larger, broader truth, which I think is potentially, I think a lot of people do that. Definitely people do that. Definitely that's something that like if you went to a traditional art school, that they probably teach you that concept. But I think it's another thing to realize it for yourself than this to just be taught that. Definitely when I went to Japan this year, and all those experiences happened. Like, it's not really just inspiration for the art, but it did it. I think it has, and it will continue to fundamentally change like how I live my life. And we have those life changing experiences on a daily basis, and so I think the message is really just that if you're an artist and you're struggling with inspiration, you don't need, like me, you don't need to go to another country or whatever. I think you just need to go out there and live your life. And while you live your life, try to just become aware, as acutely aware as possible, of the life you are living, of the choices you are making. I think, because we settle into these patterns of behavior, um, and we are often very comfortable in those patterns of behavior, we don't stop to not only question but appreciate our life, with all its problems, with all of the infinitesimal, and not no infinitesimal means small, all these infinite problems, large vicious problems, and appreciate them. Not because they're good. Sorry, I'm just conscious. I think someone just left the room. Not just because they're good, but because they're real. And you sort of need to, not need, but I believe that it's best to make art about stuff that's real. So there, if you're struggling with finding inspiration for your art, my suggestion is you go out there and live your life, and you do it in a way that you are conscious of your actions, and I think the art will follow. And the more conscious you are of your life, and in the decisions you make, I think the better the art, and the more frequently you can make good art. Will it necessarily be commercially viable art, which I think is like often a question that I come back to, and the answer is no. The answer is no. But I think there's no commercially viable art that does not first fulfill that prerequisite. Can you make functional art that is commercially viable that is not honest? Yes, but maybe not that to the same degree. I'm trying to think of like art that's made just to make money. It's like hard to actually think about. You know what I mean? It's actually hard to think about or find those songs. You can accuse certain artists of doing it, but I think usually when you look deep, there's still a truth being told. There's still an experience being told there. Whether or not it's a deep one, it's your interpretation. That's your judgment. But there, undeniably, there's probably some truth to the words or lack thereof. So yeah, 90% of this was just me venting, I guess, about like my experience. But I feel like when I walk through that thought process, I think it becomes very quite clear like how it can be inspiring. And that's only one of the experiences, right? And if you can take as many of those experiences and weave them together and tell that story, and then have that story tell that broader truth or reveal that broader truth through that story about life, about our experience, about existence, I think it contributes to some great art. And it doesn't have to be that deep. It doesn't have to be about the socioeconomic fabric of our world and about how, like, how people like get into conflict and yet they're actually fighting over the same thing, that they both want the same thing. It doesn't have to be that deep. I think it can be as simple as like appreciating like a 20-degree weather, like a temperature of 20 degrees Celsius. As someone that lives in a day to day like 30 plus, 20 degrees, that is nice. 10 degrees, oh man, that's beautiful. So yeah, you don't have to go all the way to Japan to be inspired. I just think that when it's more likely that when you go to a foreign place, the stimulus present there is just so heightened. There's just so much of it. There's so much new stuff that you don't understand, that you begin to, when you take a new experience, you learn from it. Oh, that was great, and it becomes inspiring. But the reality is that I think, by and large, the way of life in many places is the same, and it's just the context that changes. It's like, when is it appropriate to be polite? But it doesn't change the fact that you should be polite. It doesn't change the fact that you should be aware of others. You know what I mean? It's just that the way that you do it and the way that you show it is different in different places. Anyway, so that's my 20 minutes. Yeah, it was a good trip. I think I probably will write some music about my experience, but don't be surprised if that music is not as upbeat. Oftentimes, like, music about a Japan trip is often so upbeat. You're so amazed, so peaceful, serene, whatever. Or maybe, oh, it's so busy, oh, it's so like, salary man, what this and that. And I feel like I'm going to write about my Japan experience, but I will not write in certain terms, so you probably won't realize that this is about Japan. And I'm not writing about Japan. I think I'm writing about a human experience that I observed and I became conscious of when I was in Japan. But this is a universal thing. These things happen everywhere. This is not exclusive to Japan. So many things. As an aside, so many things that people talk about when they talk about Japan, they don't realize they have it at home. It's not that deep, guys. It's not that deep. Like, they finish their food. Like, they don't waste food. You're not supposed to. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, oh, they pick up the trash on the streets. Like, you should be doing that. Maybe, So yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's my 10 minutes.